I mean, he was the best thing that everybody was talking about. Everybody wanted to see him play.
In 2001, I was ranked the #1 player in the country. Over the guys like LeBron, Carmelo, Amare Stoudemire.
It was intimidating at first going against him.
Story about LeBron James, he made his name off of me. He won the game. He hit a winning shot to beat my team by 1. And his career took off from there after he beat Lenny Cooke. Like I was at the peak of my game, but one thing I didn't do is work. I was just playing straight off of straight potential. I put my name in the draft. I went undrafted. It didn't work out. So the kids today need to know that it can be here today and gone tomorrow.
Today I'm speaking with Lenny Cooke. Lenny was once considered the best high school basketball player in the U.S. In the summer of 2001, the high school basketball scene had this iconic group of players. It included Carmelo Anthony, Amare Stoudemire, and of course, LeBron James. But at one point, none of those names, not even LeBron, was at the top of the scouts list. Instead, the #1 ranked prospect was Lenny Cooke. Lenny then, of course, gained interest from every college in the US and was expected by many to become wildly successful in the NBA and, by some, to become a great one day. Unfortunately, due to his bad attitude and poor work ethic, Lenny was never drafted. This is not a story about greatness. Instead, it is a cautionary tale so some kid in high school doesn't follow in his footsteps. Finally, to thank you for checking out the new show, I'm giving away a PlayStation 5. All you have to do is like and subscribe to enter. Details in the comments. Now please welcome Lenny Cooke to the Welcome Home podcast.
It was definitely a God-given talent. I mean, without him, I wouldn't be able to do anything. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, it was just like when I moved to New York, everything was basketball. Everybody was playing basketball every day, all day, rain, sleet, snow. People was outside playing basketball. You know what I mean? And I got involved with it like that. I mean, I played here and there, pick up. You know what I'm saying? But I didn't know that I could become the #1 player in the country at one time. That was never a mission or anything like that. But yeah, man, it was definitely God-given.
There's one point in your story that I found was really interesting. At one point, you are not even in the top 100 players in high school in New York State, and the next moment, you are regarded as the #1 high school basketball player. What changes in that? Was it an incredible season? Did you have a growth spurt? What makes you from outside the top 100 in your market to being the best high school basketball player in a country?
Once I went to LaSalle Academy, we played a national schedule. Played against Rice. We played against St. Ray's. We played against like the top high schools in the country. And I solidified myself against the guys like the Andre Barrett's, the Kyle Cuffs, the Julius Hodge. I played well against them, and that's what took me from not being ranked to ranked in the country.
Your love of basketball, I wonder, at a young age, did you just love the sport, or you knew this would be a potential opportunity to change your life, to get out of a really tough financial situation? At a young age, did you even know what could be, or was it just, I love this sport so much?
No, I just love playing basketball. I never knew that like I would be considered the #1 player in the country, or you should put your name in the NBA draft. I knew nothing about those things when I was like elementary, middle school. I didn't, you know what I'm saying? Like I said, once we moved from Lang City to New York, that's when I seen how serious people took it. You know what I mean? I just thought the NBA people were just like, man, you just got to be great and you can be in the NBA. You know what I mean? Like, and I never expected that. And like coming up from elementary through middle school and stuff like that.
Before we dive into the documentary and talk about the timeline, I have a tough question for you. What is the biggest misconception with the Lenny Cooke story? What do people have wrong before we even get started?
What people have wrong about me, man, is just that people mistake me for being this ego, hard-headed, uh, rude, disrespectful kind of person, and that's not the case. Um, I never grew up as like a disrespectful person. You know what I mean? Yeah, my ego got big once I was recruited by every college in the country, and people telling me potentially I could put my name in the draft and go pro. Yeah, you're the number one player in the country. Yeah, I did, because coming from where I come from, not even never expecting those things, it changed me a little bit. You know what I mean? Not even a little bit. I'm willing to say it changed me a lot. Um, but at the end of the day, like, people don't realize like who I am outside of that, outside of basketball. You know what I mean? Who I am, and that's not me.
I find that in my life, in my friends circle, those who have watched your documentary have two very different reactions. It is that misconception that your ego was massive and you didn't want to put in work. And the other is kind of empathetic, saying, hey, this kid started at the bottom, didn't know what basketball would be, and all of a sudden agents are attacking you, coaches are trying to recruit you. So do you find that there's no middle ground? It's either you're hypercritical of your story, or there are people that said, damn, man, you had a really intense childhood.
Yeah, I mean, I did. I mean, I grew up with both my parents and everything. My parents was never into sports. They didn't care if I played basketball or not. You know what I mean? They did what they had to do to provide for me and my siblings. But once I got into basketball, it was just like it was my whole world changed. You know what I mean? It was different. Um, but at the end of the day, before basketball, like I feel like people just take that aspect of me and use it against me a lot, because my image is not the same as everybody else's. You know what I mean? I don't have this clean cut image like the LeBrons, like the Melos, like you know what I mean? And prior to them being in the NBA, like, I was doing those things as a child. Like, I was running the streets as a child. I was hanging in clubs as a child. These guys had the image where they was going to school, doing what they had to do, been in the gym all day, every day after school, you know what I mean? And putting in the work. And I didn't do that.
The documentary certainly left out pieces like that, conversations like that. But let's just start with, how did that documentary come about? What was it supposed to be? What did it end up becoming? And what has that process been like?
I mean, the documentary, I really don't like talking about it, because once again, those guys use me as well. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, the story it wasn't supposed to have been a cautionary tale. Everybody expected me. Everybody thought I was going to the NBA. Everybody, you know what I mean? So the story was supposed to have been about this kid coming out of high school, putting his name in the draft. We're going to follow him to wherever he get drafted to, see how his first contract within the 3 years, how that goes. It's just supposed to have been a story like that. You know what I mean? That, like the MTV Crib show, and you know what I mean? You know how they follow you around and stuff like that. That's what the story's supposed to have been about. And things didn't work out that way. So years later, after the draft and all of those things, I went undrafted and everything. The dude Adam, he reached back out to me somehow. I don't even know. At the time, I was going through a rough time in my life, bouncing around from here to there, unstable and everything. And I was actually right here back in Jersey, and he reached out to me and was like, "Man, let's finish this story. Like, let's do something different. Let's put a spinoff on it where, as though we can make it where you reaching out to the kids and sharing your story and showing these kids like it can be here today and gone tomorrow." You know what I mean? And that's how it ended up that way. And he told me all of these lies about how we're going to do this, how we're going to make it work, and I'll be part of all of the production and everything. And because it's a lot of things that's not in the story that should have been in my story. You know what I mean? But it's neither here nor there. You know what I mean? I took it as like a learning tool, you know what I mean? And all any publicity is good publicity for me. As long as I'm staying relevant, I'm cool.
I'm certain also that the documentary has helped a lot of kids. So at the very least, even if they did you wrong financially or with the edits, I'm certain there are some kids that you've impacted with it. So at least there's a silver lining.
And that's all that matters to me. You know what I mean? And I'm proud. I'm proud to be able to share that. You know what I mean? Because it's a lot of kids that's going to be in that same situation, and they just either you're gonna how are you going to handle it? Rather, you know what I mean? That's what I would rather say. How is that 16, 17-year-old kid going to handle that situation, being told all of these great things is going to happen, and then it don't happen? You know what I mean? It's hurtful. I was in a shell for a long time. I didn't want to be bothered, and mentally, I was down and out. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, I had to think about it like I can help somebody else.
In the documentary, there's this scene that is the standout kind of moment in the whole doc, and it is you at a camp having a championship game against LeBron James. And you played a great game. He hits a buzzer beater. What was it like to play in that game? Did you sense the gravity of what was at stake, whether it was scouts or just the narrative or rankings? What was it like on that day?
I mean, I took it as I took it as a regular game going into a regular game. You know what I mean? I took it. I didn't know who LeBron James was at the time. I didn't care. But the drive in him was different. You know what I mean? And he was a special talent, man. Like he was one of the best players I ever played against, hands down. But at the end of the day, like I still feel like if my teammate would have hit those two free throws with 8 seconds left, whether LeBron hit that shot or not, would have still won. How would my career have turned out? You know what I mean?
It's funny because I've heard you talk about that, but they left that out of the documentary, that your teammate missed two free throws and then LeBron hits a buzzer beater, the rankings change and momentum shifts. There's also another funny moment in the documentary that I picked up. It was how you talked to Carmelo. You were yelling at him, you're like, get over here. And he follows.
Yeah.
And you ask him how many points he's averaging. He says 30. You say, I'm averaging 34. You need to get better. And,
Yeah.
there's not a lot of footage. There wasn't Instagram. There weren't YouTube highlight clips. But even just seeing the way you were speaking to guys like Carmelo Anthony, these guys almost like looked up to you. Even the best high school players looked up to you. Is that accurate to say?
Yeah. I mean, those guys, man, I'm not gonna say looked up to me, they just respected me. They respected me at the time. You know what I'm saying? Those guys knew and seen me play for a long time. They knew what I was capable of, especially like a Melo. I watched Melo grow. The 3 years we played against each other at ABCD camp, he got better each year. He grew, but he also knew like I was that guy. It's just that simple. But that's like my little bro. You know what I mean? So it wasn't me trying to disrespect him or anything like that. I was just letting him know, like, if I can do it, you can do it too. If I'm averaging 34, you can average 34. You know what I mean? Like, you averaging 30, so let's get to it.
In retrospect, it sounds like that you were just a kid that was playing basketball against your friends. But looking back, you see Carmelo, you see these championship games against LeBron James, and these are like legendary moments. I assume you didn't know in the back of your head, oh, Melo's going to be Melo, or hey, this LeBron kid is good. Or was it just playing against skilled players, or did you have this thought that, oh, these guys are going to be great?
I mean, I knew those guys was gonna be pros. You know what I mean? I didn't think I would be sitting here saying that LeBron James is the greatest basketball player that ever played the game. No, I didn't. But I knew he was gonna be a pro. Um, did I think he was gonna have numerous championships? Yeah, I seen that potential. Mello, Hoodie Mello, all whatever you want to call him. That I knew he was a pro. Amare Stoudemire, I knew he was a pro. Chris Bosh, I knew he was a pro. Because those guys was different, man. They put in the work and they deserve it.
Debbie is also a big part of your story. Can you explain who she is and what impact she made on you in high school?
She's like my mom. She's still like my mom. She still is my mom. You know what I mean? She changed my life. Because if my mom would have moved back to Virginia and made me move to Virginia, I don't think I would have been the person that I grew to be. Um, Debbie, she always wanted my best interest. She had my best interest. But like I said, I was hardheaded. I didn't want to listen. I didn't take her advice. I should have stayed there with her and finished school there, but I ended up leaving. But at the end of the day, still to this day, like if I called her and just chop it up with her, I'm still her son.
Do you think if you listened to her and you accept one of the school scholarships, you would have played in the NBA?
I would probably be in the NBA still right now. I
Wow.
believe that. If I'd have went to St. John's like I was going to go, like where I was going, and played 1 year at St. John's, I would be 19 years into my NBA career.
There's this agent, and I know you don't use his name, so we'll leave him out, but he's almost the villain in the story. And I was disappointed that the documentary didn't double down on this agent's involvement kind of preying on a kid. Can you explain this agent character, how he comes into your life, and the things that he's feeding you as this kid?
I mean, he had a runner. He had a runner at the time, and I was in the club in New York, and the runner approached me in the club, and he was like, "Well, we have a situation for you. We would like to sign you. We make sure you get drafted. This and that. We're going to give you guaranteed money." And at the time, I'm like, "You giving me guaranteed money? I'm taking it." Like I didn't know it was just a loan. You see what I'm saying? That's what I'm getting at. Like these things I didn't know at the time, and I don't. These are the things that I want to teach these kids that's coming out now. I mean, yeah, the world now, everybody's giving out their advice, but I've witnessed it. I've done it. I've been through it. So, but yeah, he was like, "We want you to come to Michigan and all of these things. We're gonna make sure you get drafted. You're gonna be a lottery pick. This and that." And things didn't go that way, man. And he was lying to me. He lied to me. He really basically like hurt my career.
So he ends up offering you a $350,000 advance to sign to him. Is he telling you, don't play college ball? Take this advance, but you're going to the league?
Yeah. That was the whole mission. You're gonna graduate high school. You're gonna train. We're gonna put you up. You're gonna be training. I actually moved to Santa Monica, California. Um, Out there training. Me, D'Angelo Collins, um, and he's just lying. And still to this day, man, I can't respect him. I would never say anything disrespectful about him because I can care less about him. But at the end of the day, man, like people like that, you don't people like that you don't need in your circle, especially in this game of basketball.
When you think about this agent or an agent's role, there are two sides to it. The reality is the NBA is a business. Being an agent is a business. But when you're dealing with kids, when you're dealing with real young people that don't have life experience, haven't taken L's in business, there's like a moral or an ethical implication that these agents need some responsibility. So I respect that this is a business and he's a businessman. But when I'm listening to the documentary and I hear there's a clip of him saying, I talked to 12 teams today, all 12 are interested. Is there any truth to that? Clearly there wasn't, right?
It wasn't. You see what I'm saying? And that's what I'm saying. Like, and that was the day that I announced that I was going to put my name in the draft. That was the same day. And it was just devastating, man. Like, and it's sad that someone could take advantage of a kid like that. You know what I mean? And if I could do it all over again, man, I would go to school for that 1 year, and then I would have my opportunity.
We don't have to say his name, obviously, but is he still working? Does he still have professional athlete clients?
That I don't know. Don't know. Don't care.
So draft day, this is a big moment. How do you feel on draft day before it starts? Where are you watching it? What are your expectations? Just walk me through that day.
During the day, I mean, I really didn't do anything. I was chilling, man. I was at my girlfriend's house, just chilling, waiting for the moment, waiting for the time to count down to see what my life was going to be like after being drafted. You know what I mean? And that moment didn't happen, and I was like heartbroken, devastated. You know what I mean? And like I said earlier, I was in a shell for a long time, man. But I had to bounce back, like mentally, because I got so many people that depend on me. You know what I mean? So mentally, I had to just like let it go. Like it's over with. Like it's done. You didn't get drafted. Like move on.
What the hell did the agent tell you when the draft is over and your name isn't? What did he like? Did he call you? Did he have some sort of lie or explanation? Like how?
Now he was like he called me during like it was like during the middle of the draft, like right before the second draft was. I mean, right before the second round was about to happen. It was like, well, you're gonna be a second rounder. And I'm like, all right, man, whatever. You know what I'm saying? At that moment, like, I'm like, man, I'm not a second rounder. I know my potential. You know what I mean? Like, but after that, I didn't hear nothing from him since. From that day, I didn't want to talk to him. I could care less about talking to him. Like, I didn't have anything to say to him.
There are a lot of, armchair experts online that have theories for why you weren't drafted, why your name wasn't called. And one that came up that I want to run by you, and I also want to hear your theory on why you weren't called. Some people think that in 2001, Kwame Brown, going number one at a high school, his failure year one and how he looked on the court scared teams away from bringing high school players straight to the league. Is there an element of truth in that? And of course, I also want to hear your theories for why Lenny Cooke wasn't announced on that day.
I mean, I don't think it was any truth to that because Amare Stoudemire got drafted. You know what I'm saying? So I don't see the truth in that. But I just feel like, man, people didn't want to take the risk on me, man, because of my image and how I carried myself in and out of clubs and running with women and all of those things, man. And people didn't, like you said earlier, man, this is a business first. And those things I didn't know as a child. Like I didn't grow up under the roof of basketball. You know what I'm saying? People not telling me like this is how you have to be, your image have to. But now I know for myself, so I can share that with the next generation. You know what I mean? But people didn't want to take that risk on somebody like me. It's like I'm a liability because ain't no telling what I'm gonna do.
After your name doesn't get called, we mentioned a lot of legendary names. We mentioned all these players that respected you deeply in high school. Do they abandon you? Do they call you? Do they try to offer some support or guidance? Who sticks by your side and how many just move on?
I mean, a lot of them I don't hear from. But it's guys that do show me support through social media, like the Charlie Villanuevas, the Joakim Noahs. If I see Melo at an event where his son is playing, like him and his wife Lala always show me that support and that love and respect. But it's like if I see the guys, the love is always there. But like just like reaching out or whatever, like I don't. And I don't. And I don't reach out to them either. So it's like if it happens, it happens. If it don't, it don't.
So after you aren't drafted, you don't just say it's over for basketball. You end up playing, in Europe or overseas?
Yeah, I played overseas. I played overseas for 6 years. Played in Philippines, China, Brazil, Kuwait. I had a nice run overseas. I just didn't give up. I didn't give up until after the fact that I felt after my car accident. And I put on a lot of weight, and I tried to go back after that, and I just knew it was over then.
See, I wanted to actually dive deeper in the car accident because that was another thing the documentary failed to realize.
Exactly. Like people don't know that. People just feel like it was just like, oh, I didn't get drafted, so I just was like, no, I'm done playing basketball. Like people don't even know about the car accident. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, a lot of people are going to say it was this, it was that, but what, 2 years after the draft, as you're still working, you're trying to get better, you're trying to get a shot, all of a sudden you're in a wheelchair, right? So walk me
Yeah,
through that
yeah.
accident and what injury that was.
I actually was playing in the ABA for Long Beach Jam with Tiny Archibald was our coach. Me, Master P, Randy White Chocolate Gill. We had a nice crew. But after our first game, we went out to celebrate as a team, and coaching staff, we all went to dinner and stuff. And after that, me and one of my teammates was on our way back to the apartments, and we was in a car accident. We hit a statue, a light pole, and I was dead on arrival. Announced me dead on arrival. They brought me back. They wanted to amputate my leg. I was in a wheelchair for 2.5 years. You know what I'm saying? Like people don't know that. And like even after that though, I still went back overseas. You see what I'm saying? Like people don't. That's the things that was missed out in the story.
Yeah, that was conveniently left out for the narrative of the documentary. I said, how can you guys not talk about this guy being in a wheelchair 2 years after the draft, but they left it out. And doubling down on the documentary, was it hard to watch for the first time?
I didn't watch the documentary until probably like years later.
Wow.
My daughter would watch it every day. My son would watch it, but I didn't want to watch it. And still, a lot of my friends haven't watched it. Still to this day, like Gary Irvin will not watch it because he heard so much about it, but he won't watch it.
Aside from the documentary being tough to watch, and this might be a weird question that doesn't apply at all, was it hard when it's the NBA Finals and LeBron's playing in Cleveland or Miami or wherever? Was it hard those years watching the NBA on TV, looking at a TV
I
of...
didn't watch it for a while. I didn't watch basketball for a while. I lost the love for the game. Um, once after I was in the wheelchair and I went overseas and I came back and I knew that it was over for me. I didn't watch it, but I had to let those things go. Like, all right, I had my run, and my son was starting to play basketball, so I had to get back into the game. You know what I mean? And that's when I grew to love LeBron James as a fan. You know what I'm saying? Because my kids love LeBron James, and everybody loves LeBron James. So I had to get back into the game. I started watching it, watching how determined he became to be great. And yeah, it's just like any game that he played, I can't miss.
Man, it's funny. You see, I have friends in my own life that are like LeBron James haters and they find a reason to not like him, but it must have been really painful to watch these guys that you were playing against and your kids asking to turn on TV and you can't go anywhere without hearing about the finals. That it seems incredibly challenging, but it sounds like now you're cool. You're watching the NBA, you're enjoying it as a fan, right?
Oh yeah, definitely, man. And I'm like I said, I'm probably one of the biggest LeBron James fans there is. You know what I mean? Like I consider him as the greatest basketball player ever.
Wow. Do you think a big element that interests people about your story is the class of athletes you were with? If you were potentially coming up in a different year where Melo, LeBron, these names, do you think a big part of your story is the fact that you were in a legendary year?
I mean, I think that plays a factor. I consider our class as one of the greatest classes in high school history. But we had this argument a while ago about who was the better class, our class or Iverson's and Kobe and all of those guys. I got these guys are still playing in the NBA 20 years later. And it's a lot of them. Like we still have I think we still might have the most players in the NBA's present day.
What is your take on the at times mania surrounding high school basketball players nowadays? I told you earlier, these kids have Instagram. They have these viral highlight slow motion YouTube clips. Do you think kids should go to college, take it slow, or do you think the hype around high school players is going to lead to a lot of pain or situations like yours?
I feel like if you're making kids go to school, man, if you're making them go to school before they come out and put their names in the draft, you should make them go to school for the 2 years at least, just so they can get that education and get that degree. Because it takes 2 years to get an associate's degree. I feel as though if you're making them go to school for 1 year, they're not getting nothing out of that. I mean, yeah, you may get a national championship, but what if you get hurt during that year? Now your stock dropped. Now you're not getting drafted. Now you're mentally gone. You know what I mean? And it's not fair to the kid. You know what I mean? Like, I understand it's a business. I get all of those things. But what if this kid has an injury where he's never playing again? Now what? Now he don't have nothing to fall back on. His eligibility is done. I mean, you can always go to college. I get that. But you're there, you're going for free right now. So now if you get injured and you're putting your name in the draft, you didn't accepted an agent, now you can't go back to school for free. So now you're putting yourself in debt and all of those things. You know what I mean? So if you're going to make these kids go to school, they need to go to school for 2 years. Let them at least get their associate's degree. And now you put your name in the draft and go on with your life.
What advice do you give high school basketball players? I know you were an assistant coach or are an assistant coach for a high school basketball team. What has that experience been like teaching high school kids, trying to guide them? And what are the things you try to instill?
I mean, I love it, man. Like the guys that I've coached when I was Gene Allen's assistant in Lang City, and then I was Anthony Farmer's assistant in Middle Township High School. I mean, the guys that I coach, man, they're great. Like we still have a relationship still to this day. Like those are my little brothers. You know what I mean? And I always my motto is use me as an example of what not to do. If you do those things, you'll be successful. And as long as I can help you better yourself, get into college, I've done my job. I've done what I was set here to do. You know what I mean? And I have a kid that's at Hampton University right now, Raymond Bethea. I have Nazim Derry and Flash Morgan that's at Goldie Beacom in Delaware. I have a kid that's in a junior college right now. Like all of those things, man, that's what make me proud because I feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to do.
Let's wrap up with a strange question. What is your proudest accomplishment in your basketball career? Was it a moment in high school? Was it a game? Was it something after the draft? What is your proudest accomplishment as a basketball player?
My proudest accomplishment as a basketball player, man, is just getting to play against all of these guys that's going to be Hall of Famers. These guys is Hall of Famers, man, and I'm talking about from Chris Bosh to LeBron James to Carmelo Anthony, Amare Stoudemire, Raymond Felton. Like the list goes on, man. And these guys had hell of a careers, and they're still playing. And it, that's one of my greatest moments, man. But also, one of my other greatest moments that's in my life. Like I'm the youngest player ever to get MVP at Rucker Park.
What is your biggest regret on the flip side?
My biggest regret, man, my biggest regret is not attending college.
Let's wrap up. I heard, well, of course, you mentioned you're not thrilled with the documentary, but you are working on a book, I believe. So let's talk a
Yes.
bit about that. What's that process? What are you trying to share? And when can we
I mean, I just want. I mean, right now, I'm waiting on the company that's doing my book. They're doing someone else's right now. So once they finish with that one, then that's when we'll start jumping on mine. We just been doing interviews over the phone and stuff like that, but we really haven't been pushing for it because they still have they got a project that's going on right now. But the story that I'm trying to tell is the truth. You know what I mean? I want people to understand who I am deep down inside and not just on the basketball side. You know what I'm saying? Like I try to be the great father, the greatest father I can be. You know what I mean? I want to be the best husband I can be. And people outside of that, I just want to share my story, man, to these kids, and I don't want anyone else to have to go through what I went through.
Do you still go to the YMCA and play some pickup games to this day?
Yeah, I mess around here and there. I actually played last year in the ABA. And I just love the game, man. And no matter what, after all the things I've been through, ups and downs, man, at the end of the day, basketball took me around the world, showed me a lot of things, introduced me to a lot of people, and I can't let the love for the game go no more.
To celebrate the new podcast, I'm giving away a PlayStation 5 to one of my viewers. All you have to do is like and subscribe. That's it. Full details in the comments. Good luck.